I can see we have people from different areas today, and it's nice we'll be able to see different perspectives and experiences around sustainability and also around goal number 15. Okay. For those who are joining today for the first time, my name is Natasha Faith. I'm a program lead here at Anchor. And Anchor, for those who don't know Anchor, Anchor is a youth-focused organization where we work to empower young people and create opportunities for them to participate in sustainable development and also to be able to create change within their own communities. And that is the heart of this webinar, for us to educate and increase awareness around sustainability and its goals. And when you hear about sustainable development, you think about, is it important that much? But you see, sustainability surrounds us everywhere. And through these goals, we're able to see from SDG number 1 to SDG number 17, you're able to see how you can create change with anything you're able to start. And throughout the few 2 weeks, we started the webinar series. We discussed from SDG number 8 on decent work and economic growth, whereby we're able to learn more about entrepreneurship and green jobs. And we're able to discuss on SDG number 9 last week. We're able to talk about industries, innovation, and infrastructure. And today we're going to talk about SDG number 15, which we're now moving away from people, economy, innovation, and we're now moving to the environment. And we're now moving to see how we can support the earth that sustains us. And we're now talking about life on land, whereby when you think about life on land, people think about trees, wildlife, forest, land, climate change, which is becoming such an important issue as the world continues to grow. And it just helps us to understand how we can protect the terrestrial ecosystem, manage the forests, protect biodiversity, protect a lot of wildlife and different species. And we get to understand that the food we eat, the water we depend on, the air we breathe, agriculture, livelihoods are all connected by creating a healthy ecosystem. And especially here in Africa and in Kenya, where we depend heavily on land, agriculture, and forests. And it helps us to understand why it is important to be able to understand more on SDG number 15. So before we hand over to our presenter today, I'd like us to understand, like, if we continue waking up in a land or a river that is polluted, in forests that are disappearing, in farmers who struggle to have productive soils for agriculture, how can the world be in 10 years, in even 5 years? So through understanding SDG number 15, we'll be able to understand why it's important to conserve these ecosystems, to have environmental innovation, which is really coming up as the days and years go by, and how it's important for our future generation to enjoy the resources which us, the present generations, are enjoying. And that is the main aim of sustainability, to use our resources in a way that the future generations will also be able to enjoy these resources. And I expect that at the end of the session, we'll be able to understand why biodiversity and ecosystems matter, also the challenges that land is facing, that natural resources are facing, and what especially us, the youths, can be able to do to protect them. And feel free to ask questions throughout the session, to engage with us throughout the chat, give us your suggestions, give us what you're doing in your community or what your organization that you're working in is doing in Kenya and even in Africa. Even if you as a student, if you're even doing a course that is related to the environment or to climate change or anything like that, feel free to engage with us. So I'm going to pass it over to our presenter today from the Anchor team, who's also going to now take us through to what SDG number 15 is all about and what it entails. And then we can be able to start. But thank you for joining us this morning, creating time, especially during this cold, for you to be able to understand what SDG number 15 is all about. Thank you for also those, I see familiar names for those who joined us since the first week, and we really appreciate. So I'm going to pass it over to our presenter, and then we're going to start the session.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tasha, for that wonderful introduction and for giving me the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate for the opportunity to be part of this session. Good morning, and I hope you're all doing well. Um, I hope I'm audible enough. My name is Grace Mwini, and I am a member of Anchor Organization. And it's a pleasure and privilege to be here with you today. So first of all, I would like to warmly welcome everyone who has joined us for this webinar. And thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I'll be taking you through Sustainable Development Goal 15, also known as Life on Land, and the theme Protecting Life on Land, which is by empowering youth to restore nature for a sustainable future. And before we begin, I'd like everyone to think about this one simple question. What will happen if one day we wake up and the forest, the wildlife, the trees, and other natural resources around us were no longer there? So it sounds like something from just a movie, but many of the environmental challenges we are facing today are bringing us closer to that reality whereby one day we can wake up and we see there's no forest, there's no wildlife, there's no trees. So this is why today I'm going to discuss about SDG 15 and why it is important in our life and in our country and in this society that you're living in. So during this session, we will be looking at what SDG 15 means, why protecting our land and biodiversity matters, and the situation it is in Kenya, and most importantly, how we as young people can become part and to become part of the solution. So I hope at the end of this session, we will not only understand SDG 15, but also we are going to live with at least one action that we can take in our communities. So we can go to this slide of the learning objectives. And so before we go deeper, let me briefly highlight what we hope to achieve from this session. So by the end of this presentation, we should be able to understand what SDG 50 means, what it aims to achieve, and we will look at why biodiversity, the forest and healthy ecosystems are important to both people and the planet. And then we will bring the conversation closer to home and look at why SDG 15 matters in Kenya. And also, we will discuss the role that young people can play in protecting and restoring our environment. So this is not just going to be part about knowing what SDG 15 is, but we are going to look at what we actually do about it, like the actions that needs to be taken to care about our environment and how we are going to conserve the ecosystem. So we are going to look at what is SDG 15. SDG 15 is a sustainable development goal known as the Life on Land, and it is one of the 17 sustainable development goals that was adopted by the United Nations in 2015. And SDG 15 focuses on protecting, restoring, and sustainably managing Earth's terrestrial ecosystems. And this includes our forest, the grasslands in Kenya, the mountains, the wastelands, and other natural habitats. So it also, the SDG 15 also addresses issues such as desertification. We all know desertification is whereby the forest, there is totally no trees. The land is so dry. We have land degradation, deforestation, the cutting down of trees. We have biodiversity loss and the extinction of plant and animals. So it also helps us to understand the issues that are causing the desertification, the land degradation, the deforestation, and it helps us to bring the solution and also to care about our planet. And now when we hear the words like life on land, we might immediately think that it's about animals most of the times, but SDG 15 is much bigger than wildlife. So it is about the entire ecosystem that you're living in, and like for example, like trees, whereby we may look at trees and think it's just a tree, but that tree can provide shade, can support biodiversity, can help protect soil, can contribute to a healthy environment. So protecting one part of nature can have an impact on many other parts that we are trying to live in our society. And this is what SDG 15 is really about. It's about keeping our ecosystems healthy and balanced. Are we together? You can react if you can hear me, and if you're on the same page about SDG 15, if you're really understanding. Thank you, Ivy. Thank you. So I've said that SDG 15 is really about keeping our ecosystem healthy and also balanced. We can look at now, why does SDG 15 matters. Let's look at why SDG 15 matters. So firstly, it helps to protect biodiversity, as I've said, and also prevent the extinction of plants and animal species. Also, secondly, it helps to support food security, because agriculture depends on healthy soils and also functioning ecosystems. And also it helps to, thirdly, it helps to address climate change, because they absorb carbon dioxide, whereby forests and wetlands also play an important role in protecting our water resources. And finally, many people depend on agriculture, forestry, tourists, and also natural resources for livelihoods. And so when we talk about cutting down a forest or destroying the wetlands, we shouldn't think that it's just these are trees. You know, people cut down just knowing that this a tree, it will grow anytime, but there can be much bigger consequences towards that. So it can affect the water, the agriculture, the wildlife, the climate, and people's livelihoods. So like, for example, you can imagine a farmer whose land becomes severely degraded. They may struggle to grow enough food. They can affect their income, their family, and their community. So we can reduce cutting down of trees. We can try to, as young people in Kenya, we can really try to come up with programs that can help us to create awareness about deforestation, whereby people depend on these trees for rainfall, whereby if there's no rainfall, we know there's going to be drought. So we can avoid the struggle, whereby as young people we can come up with the programs where we can at least come up with solutions to help us to stop the deforestation, teach the communities on how we can plant trees. We can come up with programs in our communities so that at least we can improve our income, our family can live well, we can have food, you know, and our community can grow. So environmental protection is also connected to our social and economic well-being. And so SDG 15 really matters. So we can also create awareness in our country. So the most important thing as a young people we can do about the SDG 15 is to create the awareness in our communities and let people know how it is important for us to keep on growing the trees, to care about the environment and everything. So we are going to look at why SDG 15 is important in Kenya. So let's bring this conversation closer to home. And what does SDG 15 really means for Kenya? So in Kenya, around the world for its incredible wildlife and natural ecosystems, we have forests, we have the wetlands, we have the grasslands, we have the mountains and wildlife. So all these attract visitors from all over the country and all over the world. So however, this ecosystem, we face challenges or the pressure like the deforestation on land degradation and pollution and climate change. This leads us to let me give an example first. Let's take wildlife tourism as an example. So people can travel to Kenya because they want to see the elephants, some they want to see the lions, the rhinos, and other wildlife in their natural habitats. And but the wildlife also needs the healthy habitats to survive. If those habitats are destroyed, the wildlife is affected. And when the wildlife is affected, the communities that depend on the tourists can also be affected. So conservation isn't simply about protecting animals because they are beautiful. It's all about we protecting the ecosystems, the communities, and the livelihoods that we live in. In other words, so when we protect our nature, we are also protecting parts of Kenya's future. So in um, some of the challenges that we Kenya face are the deforestation, you know, biodiversity loss, um, the um, the species are reducing each and every time. So it's going to affect our also economic activities, whereby we are going to attract less tourism. So when we try to protect their wildlife, you're going to at least people are going to see how amazing it is to have the nature, to have the animals, you know. And Kenya has been affected by poaching a lot, and at least this time poaching has reduced, and the Kenya WS, the Kenya Wildlife Service, has really helped in reducing poaching in our country. And at least as we see animals around, people can go and enjoy themselves. You know, this all leads to the same topic we're talking about, the SDG 15. And it is important to us to protect the wild animals. So now I'm going to take you through why does SDG 15 matters to young people. So far, I think I hope I'm not going too fast. Do you have any? Is anyone having any question to ask? I hope I'm not going too fast. I want us to tackle something about the SDG 15 and why it matters to young people. So now I want to focus on something very important, which is us, the young people, and why should young people care about SDG goal 15. So because we are not only the future, we are also part of the present. So this discussion we make today will influence the environment that will affect the generation to inherit. So I'd like to ask a question, one question, and I'd like you guys to respond. Maybe two people can respond. What do you think the young people or as the youth we can do or we can contribute towards the goal of SDG 15 and how we can protect the environment? Like, what do you think as the young people can do in our communities, in our society, on how we can contribute towards the environmental awareness? What are some of the ways we youth can do, the young people? We can what can we contribute to do in our society so that we can create the awareness of the climate change, to reduce the deforestation. What do you think? So what are some of the things as you personally you can do to contribute to the society to reduce the deforestation? What can you do to help in the improving the life of ecosystems? You know. Thank you, Baraza. Baraza says participating in community cleanup exercise. Yes. Any other person? Yeah, we can contribute towards cleaning up exercises in our society. Anyone else who can answer that question? Like, what do you think the young people can contribute towards the environmental conservation, creating awareness? Catherine says tree planting and restoration of forests, yes. Joining local conservation groups or organizations that aims to restore ecosystems or biodiversity laws, yeah. So we as young people can contribute in many different ways. So we can plant trees and care for the trees. We can reduce pollution. We can practice proper waste management. We can protect wildlife and natural habitats. We can raise awareness through social media. We can also participate environmental clubs and society or community initiatives, and also we can create green businesses and innovative environmental solutions. So those are some of the ways. Yeah, waste management. Catherine says waste management. Daisy says not littering. Yes. Catherine also added and said sustainable agriculture. Exactly. So we youth here in Kenya, we can practice those things. We can reduce the pollution. We can practice waste management. We can protect wildlife and natural habitats. You know, even participate, especially right now the way we are using our mobile phones. Our mobile phones, we can like create awareness through social media, through the TikTok, the Instagram, everywhere. We can create the awareness and let people know that it is important to conserve the environment. Thank you so much for the answers. Now we are going to look at the AI and the technology in conserving the environment. And now let's move to one of the most important and interesting area of SDG 15, which is the artificial intelligence and technology in conservation. So when we hear about the word conservation, we may imagine people walking through forests with binoculars. But today, technology is changing how conservation is done. So we have technologies such as the AI, we have the drones, we have the satellites, the GPS trackers, and the mobile applications being used to monitor the ecosystem and the wildlife. So these technologies can really help conservation collect the accurate information to dictate the threats and also make a better decision. So, for example, imagine trying to monitor a very huge forest manually, like you're just walking around trying to monitor the forest alone. You cannot do it alone. So, uh, the drones and the satellites has really helped to monitor large areas in our wildlife system. So AI can also help analyze the large amount of information, and this has created opportunities for the young people. So if you're interested in coding, in AI technology, designing, or innovation, you can use these skills to contribute to the conservation. So conservation is not only for the people who study also the environmental sciences. A tech student can contribute, a designer can contribute, a social media manager can contribute, an entrepreneur can contribute, and there's space for everyone to participate in conserving the environment. So I'd like to give an example here in Kenya about the Kenya WS, the Kenya Wildlife Service, whereby the Kenya Wildlife Service, the KWS, has used technology to support wildlife conservation. And according to our material, KWS uses tools such as the GPS, the GPS tracking, the drones, and camera traps to monitor wildlife and also help combat the poaching. So this technology also supports the protection of endangered species such as the elephants and rhinos, because the elephants and the rhinos are the ones which are being hunted down by the poachers. So when they use the GPS trackings, the drones, they can monitor easily and watch over the wildlife. So a ranger who cannot physically be everywhere at the same time, this person has been given the opportunity to take care of the wildlife, but this person cannot do it like physically. He cannot like be everywhere at the same time. So this technology has act as an extra set of eyes to these rangers. So technology is not only about replacing the conservationists, but it has helped them to become more effective. So, and this is where young people can bring their skills into environmental protection. As you can see in the picture, as you can see there, that's a drone there that is being used to monitor and also to watch the wildlife animals there in the area. And that is how the technology has really improved and helped in protecting the animals from poaching. And Kenya has really taken a step also in protecting the wildlife. So another topic I'm going to discuss about is the desertification and the Great Green Wall. So now let's move to this one, whereby this is something we really need to pay attention to, something called desertification. And the desertification meaning is the process where fertile land has become totally dry or degraded and less productive. So imagine that you are a farmer and you wake up one morning, you go to your farm, and the land that used to produce food is now dry, hard, and almost impossible to farm. So what will you do actually? So I'm trying to ask a question here. When you wake up one day, let's say you're a farmer, and you wake up one day and you find your land that you used to produce food now is dry, it's hard, and almost impossible to farm. What will you do personally? What is your first reaction? What are you going to do? Uh, let's say you're a farmer and one day you just wake up and realize, oh, this land is no more, it's not giving me the kind of produce it used to, it's used to give. So now it's dry, it's hard, it's almost impossible for you to farm. So what will you do actually? As a farmer, what are you going to do when you find your land it's not producing the way it's used to produce? Baraza says that I'll really feel devastated. It really kills morale, yes. Desertification it's really a bad thing to farmers. Catherine says looking for alternative means, yeah. Baraza says I will think of maybe irrigation, yeah. Those are the kind of solutions we can do. So these are some of the challenges the desertification can really create. And desertification is when productive land becomes dry, degraded, and less productive. So it can be influenced by things such as climate change, deforestation, and unsustainable land use. And here is one example that becomes interesting. So let's try to, I'm giving an example from China now. So China has faced serious desertification, particularly around areas affected by the expansion of the Gobi Desert. So instead of simply looking at the problem and saying, well, this land is finished, or they are not going to do anything again, so they took an action. So China introduced the Three North Shelter Belt program, commonly known as the Great Green Wall, and it's actually a massive ecological restoration effort involving the planting trees. It involved the restoring degraded land and trying to slow the spread of desertification. So millions of trees has been planted as part of the effort. And now the program has been associated with impacts whereby the Great Green Wall has initiated the program for improved soil quality to reduce soil erosion, has helped in restoring habitats, increased biodiversity, and also improved farming conditions. So what can we learn from this example from China is that a big environmental problem requires consistent action. So we can't plant one tree today and take a picture and post and say, save the planet, and then tell the tree that, okay, my work here is done, so we'll see you next time. No, these trees needs to be watered, they need to be cared for, they need the protection. And that's exactly the lesson that the environment requires, the long-term commitment. So it takes our individual, the communities, and also organizations and the government to work together. So the Great Green Wall reminds us that restoration is possible when people are willing to take action, and we can continue to keep going. So so China today, they did the restoration whereby their land was so dry. They began by planting the trees, they watered it as well as they were doing it together. So this led to long-term commitment whereby now they can do farming. They are doing well in economically because these people transformed the dry land now to become more of a land that can produce more food, and it has helped them also sustain them with their livelihoods. So as we young people, also we can come up with solution in our communities. Maybe let's say in Kitui, whereby the land is so dry. As young people, we can go ahead and create awareness of how we can restore, whereby we can teach these young people on how they can continue to plant trees. They can come up with solutions of how they can water the trees each and every time, so that these trees are going to help them with rainfall one day, one time. They're going to help them with soil. They're going to help them with a lot of things whereby it can restore the food. Because I know the area of Kitui is so dry, whereby there are a lot of people who are bringing solutions whereby they're trying to uh, they're trying to plant a lot of trees near the rivers, whereby these people can actually, the young people actually, they are trying to make money, whereby they use the waters around the rivers to help them to grow their crop production, whereby they sell the crops, and it has really helped them in job opportunities. So we are going to look at what can young people do. What can we young people do? Now, after hearing all of this, we might think that, okay, Grace, this is interesting, but what can I actually do? And honestly, that's probably the most important question, the entire presentation, because it's very easy for us to listen to this webinar and be like, "Whoa, climate change is serious." But We need to go back to our lives and to our normal. We are going back to our normal lives. So let us make it practical. Everything that you're going to do, let everything that we have learned since the first SDG, let us make it be more practical. And we can plant trees. We can reduce the pollution that you have said and manage waste properly. We can volunteer. If you're not doing anything right now, you can find an organization and volunteer yourself. You can use the technology whereby you can just, if you're interested in AI, you could explore the how technology can monitor and help forest or wildlife. If you're an entrepreneur, you can create a business that turns to waste into useful products. You don't have to be a conservation scientist to contribute to the SDG 15. No, you can bring whatever skill you have as a young person and use it to solve an environmental problem. And so I would like to ask a question. In your community right now, or wherever you are, what are some of the problems that your community is facing? And what are some of the opportunities are you trying to solve, or what are you trying to bring up to solve the environmental problems around your communities? So what are some of the issues or some of the problems that your community is facing right now? Maybe um, here in Nairobi, you know, we are trying to reduce the plastic pollutions. So what are some of the solutions do you think you can come up with? So, and what could you do about it? Because SDG 15 isn't about us becoming superheroes or anything. It's us to become responsible citizens and also change makers. So we don't need one person to do everything, and we just need many people doing it. As we Kenyans, we young people, we need many people to do something or to come up with solutions of how we can take care of this environment. So as a young person, what do you think are some of the problems your community is facing, or some of the issues in your community? Maybe in your community, in your area of Nini, maybe in Kitui, maybe in Machakos. What's some of the environmental problems you're facing and you're trying to bring up to give these young people, the community, the solutions? What are some of the environmental problem you guys are facing in your communities? Austin Barak says counties like Migori and Homa Bay have some of the lowest forest coverage in Kenya, under 3%, and widespread clearing of trees of charcoal, firewood, and agriculture leads to severe soil erosion and localized land degradation. Yeah, Migori is facing such a problem right now. And so what do you think Austin, what do you think are some of the solution you can come up with to help these people and reduce um, the severe soil erosion? How can you create the awareness to the people of Migori and the Homa Bay? Catherine says, as a drone company will help with sustainable agriculture solutions, and we also train youth to curb unemployment. Baraza says dust pollution, especially, okay, in your area, you say dust pollution, especially when it is windy, is one thing I have witnessed in Nairobi. I honestly don't know how the issue can be addressed, but it is a point of concern. Okay, Baraza. Baraza says about the Nini. the dust pollution. There is the cutting down of trees in national parks to make way for infrastructure in Nairobi. We could support organizations like the Green Space Africa by signing their petitions to stop it. Yeah. There are a lot of issues going on in our countries that is affecting our environment. Grishon says uh, the permaculture training is what I am determined to do to help my rural community in Berry. Grishon, can you kindly just unmute and kindly explain to me that how you're doing, how you're the permaculture training is kindly.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi.
Basically, permaculture is like a nature-inspired system where you are using land for the correct purposes. For example, you cannot plant certain crops in Mbere because they will either end up taking up all the water from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just learning the pattern of an environment and using that to make your space productive. There's something like digging of trenches around your shamba in order to retain the water basin
Mm-hmm.
and prevent runoff water. So it's basically that kind of design systems for your space in an agricultural way.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Grishan, for that. I hope everyone has heard what he has said. We have Baraza saying, I agree with Ivy, like the construction of hotel in Karura Forest. Yeah, that one is going to they're like building an infrastructure there. They're taking space for the Karura Forest, whereby the forest has been a really helpful need to us for the fresh air, for the rainfall. Now they're trying to build a hotel there. You have Hilda saying through offering support to conservation organizations. And Austin explains and says form of strengthen community youth groups to act as an environmental ambassadors, reporting illegal trees cutting and leading local riverbank cleanups drives. Yeah, thank you everyone for the your response. Those are very great response, and I'm so glad that the young people can actually participate in this, in protecting the nature and also the environment. And we as young people, we can really contribute to SDG 15 by planting the trees and restoring ecosystems, reducing waste and pollution, protecting wildlife and natural habitats, using social media to create environmental awareness, developing innovative and technology solutions, volunteering in conservation activities, creating great businesses and sustainable solutions. That was all about the SDG 15, which is reminding us that protecting nature is protecting ourselves, and we cannot separate human well-being from the health of our environment. So our forests, the wildlife, the water, the soils, and the biodiversity are all play a role in our lives. And as young people, we have an important role to play, not just as future leaders, but leaders and change makers today. So we have the creativity, we have the energy and the technology to contribute to solutions. So let's move beyond simply talking about the environmental problems, and let's take the action. Let's plant, let's restore, let's educate, let's innovate, and let's protect the land, and the land will protect us. So I would like to thank again Tasha for the opportunity, and thank everyone who took the time to join this webinar and listen to me today. And I truly appreciate your time and participation. And let us remember that when we protect nature, the nature also protect us. Thank you. That was all about SDG 15, the life on land.
Thank you so much, Grace, for the presentation. It was really nice to see all of you guys interacting from what we can be able to do as the youth and giving us examples that, especially with the example Grishon made, permaculture is really helping, especially in the agricultural space, with creating a system from the mixing different crops you're planting, or water management, or organic farming, and also the example of Baraza and Ivy for Karura. Remember, guys, you can sign the petition. You can check friends of Karura on their social media or Green Space to sign the petition. Those are things we can start with creating awareness and having things you can start within your community. I see Austin has something to tell us. You can just open your mic and talk to us, Austin.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I had a question.
Yes.
So my question is concerning the environmental money and local communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do local people make money without cutting down trees for charcoal?
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. And number two, are local communities like Migori, maybe Kisumu, getting paid or supported to help protect green space and parks? Thank you.
Okay, can you repeat the last question kindly?
My last question was, are local communities getting paid or supported to help protect green space and parks?
Okay, I see. Let me listen to Baraza's question and then we can answer all of them. Yes, Baraza.
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Mane. I really did get to learn a lot from what you've said. Personally, my organization simply deals with uh, the farmers who in the ASAL regions, okay? The Marsabit, Samburu, and Turkana, those regions. So one thing we really do is that we are aware of what's going on in terms of environmental degradation. We've seen how the environment changes in environmental factors can really affect. And I appreciate the point that protect natural resources today is about ensuring that future generation can benefit from them. So the question that I have is considering that land degradation affects both the ecosystem and the community livelihoods, particularly in areas where communities depend heavily on livestock, like let's say Turkana or Isiolo or Samburu. So what are some of the practical approaches that can be used to balance livestock production with that sustainable rangeland management from your own perspective?
Okay, I think I'm going to answer. I hope my answer answers both questions. I think for the one on my experience and what I have seen with environmental money and local communities and how they can make money from protecting green parks, I have an example from Masai Mara, the women in Masai Mara, or I can even use the example of her name, Wangari Maathai, who, if I'm not wrong, maybe she worked with people from Mao. You guys can correct me. But you see, like these local communities who are now being motivated or empowered to plant trees and protect this forest and all that. Some of them get empowered through businesses. An example of Masai Mara, we have women in Masai Mara who now are supported with their bidding. Like we have people in Masai Mara who they're given business opportunities through their bidding. So whenever they're protecting the environment with different organizations, planting those trees, not using the charcoal, and now they are motivated to use another fuel option instead of cutting down the trees. They are now given sustainable conservation businesses. That is an example that I know from Masai Mara, whereby you have these women being empowered using their bidding, training them to bid in quality ways, and then giving them business opportunities. That is one example I know from Masai Mara. Another one I know maybe from Mau is how if they're protecting a certain forest area and there's an ecotourism there, they're either given jobs from the ecotourism with serving and all that. With also, now it depends with the government and the tourism and the organizations that are working with. But personally, from local communities and what we can do is now the example I'm giving from Masai Mara. Now, because you want them to do something for you, which is conserving and protecting, you can give them back something else. And I found that giving them sustainable conservation businesses really helped the women in Masai Mara, and just promoting their culture and their community and all that. Because taking something that they're used to can be a bit hard, because that's something that, especially with them using trees with the fuel and all that. So I think interchanging it with something sustainable and also can bring them an income is something I've noticed can be a solution in terms of how they can earn a wage from protecting the green parks and conserving and all that. I hope it answers Austin's question in a way. I don't know if he's still in the presentation. I hope. So that is something, I hope it also answers Baraza's question in a way. If Baraza, is it something you can just tell me if you've not understood what I've said? Okay, yeah, that is something I really noticed. You guys can check Masai Mara with the bidding. It's all everywhere on Google. You can check how empowering these women and finding an alternative, because working with communities can be hard. You're telling them not to use trees to cook or do something. You need to find an alternative for them to understand you're taking this away from us, but you can be able to do another thing that is sustainable for us to do. I think that really, really helps. And they can also be able to join conservation jobs or community projects that turn away from them from understanding why they need to keep this forest, they need to keep this wildlife, they need to enjoy these natural spaces rather than destroying them. Because as Grace has said, we need to protect the nature for it to sustain us back. And I think looking at what Wangari Maathai did with Greenbelt and working with communities in women in all of Central is such a good example. I think you guys can check that out for you to answer the question. I know I've not answered it directly, but I think that can help. I know the time is moving. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. I think we are going to close up because I know time is moving, but I think we've talked about so many examples from KFS, from China, from so many. I know so many communities are doing so much work from organizations creating awareness and fighting for ending cutting down of those trees, and also for trying to be environmental ambassadors. We also have so many schools who are nowadays doing so many tree planting campaigns, not only schools, but local organizations. And I believe we can be able to do something and start something, even if it's back at home in your community or even here in Nairobi, like participating in riverbank cleanups, how has Austin said on the chat, and also with everything you guys have been able to discuss. And I think that we have an opportunity to do something in the SDG 15 space. And I just want to thank you so much for joining this session. We have our last session next week for our last SDG number 16, which we're now going to move to now a different sector, from how we've moved from jobs to industries and now to trees, and now we're going to be able to see all of that. So looking forward to experience another session with you guys next week, same time, Wednesday 11 to 12, and we look forward to engaging with you guys again. Thank you so much for everyone who has been able to join us. I see Baraza has a question. Yes, Baraza.
Not really. I don't have a question, but
Okay.
I just wanted to thank the presenters for a wonderful presentation, because as a listener, one thing I take from discussion, particularly from livestock perspective sector, the one we are in, is that land degradation is not only for the environment issue, but also a livelihood and economic issue that needs to be preserved. So I think there is an opportunity for both the business and so that it can contribute to the SDG 15 by integrating that land sustainable use practices. So I really want to thank you, Amweni, and the entire Anchor organization for organizing such a wonderful session. And as a listener, I'm looking forward to the next presentation next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Baraza. That is so nice. I really also loved how our presenter Grace also presented so much. We're able to learn that SDG number 15 talks about land degradation, and it's not only about the environment. It has so many things, especially with the community, and it interconnects with so many things, which it's able to challenge us as the youth in what you can do, like what can be your one tree, not specifically a tree, but what is something you can describe as your one tree, as maybe ending pollution, ending waste management, taking care about the communities and all that. That can be your one tree. And I think that is something we can be able to understand as we end the session. So looking forward to engaging with you guys next week again, with our last SDG webinar series. Thank you so much for those who joined us since week 1. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Baraza. Thank you for the questions, the suggestions. I think everyone in this session has been able to understand you can do something. You can go sign that petition for Karura. You can go look for a cleanup that is happening this month or next month. There are so many cleanups that usually happen in Nairobi. You can check it on LinkedIn, on Instagram, TikTok. There's a way you can contribute. That can be your one tree. So looking forward to engage with you next week. Thank you so much for joining, creating the time. And yes, I think we can end the session here, and looking forward to joining you guys. I think our administrator can post our link to the previous presentations we did, so that you guys can check them out. Also check our SDG report and see what us as Anchor we've been doing. And yes, as we prepare for the next week session, I think we can now end it we can end it there. And thank you once again for joining this session, and have a lovely afternoon.